In Canada, we refer to this job as a learning strategist. And so we wanted to sort of have a chat about making the abstract more concrete. And we are wondering, does it make it difficult for us to advocate for our roles in higher education just because budget holders don't necessarily know what we do as a job role? And so we wanted to sort of explore the role, talk about all of the tasks and activities that we do with students, to sort of enumerate them, and hoping that being really explicit about understanding what our job roles are can help us then advocate more strongly for the importance of the work that we do with students. So we are, well, I'll let Alyson take the next slide, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the project that we're sort of working on right now.
Thanks so much, Jill. So we always just want to start with a quick land acknowledgement. Excuse me, just acknowledging that we are very privileged to facilitate this discussion from Halifax. I'm currently in Halifax, both Jill and I in Nova Scotia. This is the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq, Wolastoqey, and Beskodimogodi peoples. These sovereign nations have been stewards of this land and hold inherent rights as the original people of these lands. We each carry collective obligations under the peace and friendship treaties. As treaty beneficiaries, we recognize that we're all treaty people, as I definitely have privileged on this land, learned, worked, lived, all of the things, had fun, enjoyed the beaches. So again, just noting that we are all treaty people. Thanks, Jill. Let's look at the introductions.
All right. So who we are.
Who we are. And my favorite is the pictures that Jill selected. I feel like they're very representative of each of us. I am Alyson. I'm an access advisor at Dalhousie University. I also work as a learning strategist. I've worked for a company called CanLearn that specializes in literacy and other learning skills for students diagnosed with learning disabilities, attention-related concerns, or mental health. So I've done that job as an independent contractor as well. And I'll pass it to you, Jill.
All right. My name is Jill Kovacs, and I work at Nova Scotia Community College, and I'm a student accessibility specialist. I also sit on the board of LSAC, and I have worked as a learning strategist both at NSCC and at another college in Ontario called Algonquin, and I do some learning strategies privately as well. So those are our email addresses. Feel free to get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from people and talk about this work because it's really, we're really passionate about it. We think that this job is really, really important. Currently in Nova Scotia, we don't have a lot of learning strategists embedded in academic units. Some of the bigger institutions do, the smaller institutions do not. And we'll get into a little bit more about that on the next slide. The learning strategist in Canada, currently in Canada, learning strategist role is considered enhanced service, or that's sort of the language that another province, one of our biggest provinces, Ontario, uses. And so it's an enhanced student service for students with disabilities. And so both Alyson and I work with students with disabilities, writing up accommodation agreements and working on access for students with disabilities. And in Canada, these roles, these learning strategist roles are often embedded within disability services units. And they're considered an enhanced service where the primary service is that accommodation agreement. And these roles can be, but are not always embedded in institutions. And learning strategists in Canada it's not a regulated profession with specific skills and standards of practice. So in our jurisdiction, anybody can sort of hang a sign out and say I'm a learning strategist without any standards of practice standards of service that both protect the role but also protect the client, knowing that they are getting the support that they're looking for.
Awesome. So as Jill mentioned, Jill and I are co-chairs for a provincial committee where we're undertaking a credential review for the role of the learning strategist to understand more deeply the expectations of the role and any additional kind of qualifying credentials. Kind of the scope of our project that we've been assigned is to, of course, understand the purpose and intent of the academic strategist role, to do an environmental and jurisdictional scan, as well as a capacity review based on current institutional resources, which, brings up something we've noted is the difference between urban and rural institutions and their access to staff that would be credentialed to do this type of work. Then we're going to do a current credential review to understand the expectations of the role. We've reviewed or begun reviewing some available job descriptions, some of which we've gotten from folks, from you folks, which was great. Then we're going to identify additional credentials that meet expectations of the role. And then we will hope to conclude this project by the end of the year or the loan year, so August 1st, 2024-25 year. And I'll pass it back to you, Jill.
Okay, so a little bit more about the background of this task that we've been assigned, that we've been voluntold that we're going to do, is like I said earlier, not all students have access to a learning strategist that is embedded within an academic unit. So students with disabilities can access federal government money to request learning strategy support. And so those students would then go and locate an external service provider go and locate an external service provider to access and then pay that external service provider the wage of that has been sort of decided by the federal government of what they would pay a learning strategist to do this work. And so because anybody can just say that I'm a learning strategist in this jurisdiction, it does sort of open the door for predatory behavior of folks who may not have the skills or may not be meeting the needs of the students that they're working at. So part of the request is to sort of identify, where the boundaries of the job are, and then a way to assess people who would like to apply to offer support for students with disabilities. So that's part of what we have to do here, and then we have to present our recommendations. And so we are hoping to gather information from folks like your organizations, like yourselves, and have a really good discussion about what is going on in all of the different universities that our different jurisdictions are connected with, and then what are sort of the job tasks that you're engaging with as you support students. So, in the spirit of that, we have the Mentimeters. And we'd really like to have a good discussion. So please feel free to come on camera and come on mic and talk to us. But we'll also have Mentimeters that we can populate with information. So we sort of structured this chat around 5 questions that we want to ask people and get your thoughts and feedback. To really understand how the job is being performed in Australia and New Zealand. So I'm going to find, is that the new Mentimeter or is that the old one?
It might be the old one.
Okay.
I'll maybe do that. Delete for the new one.
Let me just find that. Okay. So Here is the new link. So the second link is the new link, and that will take us to the different mentees. And sorry, only got 2 screens instead of 3, and I'm having trouble navigating. There we go. And without further ado, question 1.
Okay. So, what do you see as the purpose of the learning strategist role? So, really broad question. We are asking this question really to center this conversation and just have us reflecting on why we believe this job is so important for students and also for their learning. So, we're just really curious as to what you see the overall purpose of the role is, and we'll give you some time to type. But like Jill said, please feel free to come on camera, put it in the chat, put it in the Mentimeter, whatever works for folks.
Okay, and this looks weird, but I'm hoping it's working.
I will send us a test.
Okay.
Working.
Beautiful. This has been relevant adult.
Absolutely.
So discipline relevant academic literacies. I'm curious about that. Just in trying to understand where the line is between tutoring and academic literacies, like skills around that. Feel free to put answers in the chat. Come on the mic. Throw some more stuff into the Mentimeter.
That was me, Jill.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess we mean in like my team's case, we teach the students in their cohorts as part of their timetables, collaborating with lecturers to do that. And then, yeah, we'll see students individually on a smaller basis, I suppose. But yeah, does that help?
It does help. And I'm wondering, Mark, when you say that you so you go into classrooms like you're co-teaching with faculty?
Yes.
Okay. That's fantastic. I did that last year when I was working as a learning strategist at NSVC, and it was my favorite way to do learning strategies with students, because you could have in the moment sort of like, this is what you can do, or this is, how would you take this note? This is what's important. And I found it really useful for students to sort of have that in the moment, start thinking about what you're doing and doing it differently.
Yeah, we're all about sort of trying to make it, I suppose, inescapably clear why it's relevant and of value to do any of the things that we might come into to talk about. Yeah.
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 All right. And to communicate powerfully, persuasively in their future professional context. Okay. Absolutely. No, wait for Rachel, who's typing in the chat.
Sorry, that was me too. Sorry, I meant to say to teach students how to communicate, but not for us to do that. Sorry, I realised reading that now that I missed some words.
To empower students. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. In my practice with students with disabilities, I see a lot of students showing up without the skills necessary to be successful, and they're so disempowered when they start that process. And once they get some skills under them and they start having success with those skills, it absolutely turns things around, and it's phenomenal to watch. For those of you just joining, there is a link in the chat if you want to add anything to the mentees. Otherwise, you are welcome to come on camera and unmute yourself. And, you know, we're really just looking to have a chat with folks about what's going on in the various jurisdictions. But it looks like we are ready to move on. All right, so our second question is, what job tasks do you perform? And again, we're asking, actually the next two questions sort of generate a list of skills that learning strategies perform, or skills that, or you know, things that learning strategists teach. Again, in Nova Scotia, we don't really have these jobs well defined. And so part of what we want to do is sort of cast the net as widely as possible to capture all of the different things that that a learning strategist would do, particularly because we want to sort of guard against folks who, again, just sort of hang a sign out and say, I'm a learning strategist, to sort of guard against those things. So that we make sure that we are triaging students to folks who really do have the skills to help and support them. So we have another mentee, and we will move forward. And we're not. I'm going to let Alyson respond to the message in the chat while I figure out what's going on here.
No problem. So great point from Quentin. Just an answer to what is the purpose of the learning strategist role. So learning advisors at AUT in New Zealand focus on developing students' academic literacies. Perhaps learning strategists would focus on students with specialized learning disabilities, dyslexia, etc., or perhaps support faculty, lecturers, curriculum development, and materials design. I thought that was absolutely great. Made really great sense to me. Yeah.
I am curious about whether or not there are a lot of people in your institutions who are embedded in faculty units. When we were meeting with folks from the UK earlier, there were a group of people who sort of skirted around the edges of also sort of having one foot in Centers for Teaching and Learning, and then, you know, another foot very student centered, very student front facing. So in your roles in Australia and New Zealand, how are your jobs being organized within your institutions? And then also what tasks are sort of links on to what tasks you're performing based on how you are organized within your institutions.
See some folks typing, so we'll give it a minute.
And again, I guess I'm curious if folks in your jurisdiction are in whether you're sort of tied in with accessibility and disability services, or if you are in fact a separate unit unto yourself, for, you know, more located in like library and learning services, and those kinds of areas where students of all needs have access. in different jurisdictions. We are a centralized unit and we work with lecturers and faculty. I think that this is not the most common in New Zealand, but there are exceptions. And what do folks who are embedded in units that work with faculty as well? I'm curious about whether or not, if, comparing and contrasting those experiences with just student-facing intervention that were often in Canada, we split those two things apart. Like, we're an entirely separate group of people and you come to us after class and, we'll work on some skills that you could then go and, port into your classroom environment. Has anybody got any opinions or thoughts on like the pros and cons of both models? Develop and deliver generic and discipline-specific workshops, one-on-one consultations on academic language and learning. But this sounds a lot like what we're doing here in Canada as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And careers and scholarship and peer-assisted learning. Yes, peer-assisted learning. Centralized unit, and we're not closely connected with other services. Okay. Generic workshop. Embedded workshops help students prepare for upcoming assignments. Okay, so lots of one-on-one consultations as well. That's great.
I would add, Joe, to Quentin's message. Yeah, we actually do the one-to-ones post submission. So I think that is quite a point of difference, probably, from a lot of other teams. So students can come and see us before, but we don't look at their work with them, and that's sort of around academic integrity concerns.
Right.
Yeah, and the post submission is requested by the lecturers, and we collaborate again with them, and we teach the students something, and we communicate to the lecturer what we've done.
That is fascinating, because that is absolutely, yeah. I don't think that I've seen that done in Canada.
No, that's fascinating.
I really like that actually as a model, because I think that academic integrity piece is with AI, moving ahead, full steam ahead. That academic integrity piece is a lot these days. So that post submission is fascinating.
That's
Hi.
the model. You've just identified the model. Because I'm new to being a learning advisor team leader at Unitec. So not new to working in academic institution, but new to this team. So they're fun. And so that's the model I've been heading floating, but I've only just started, put it on my, really this week I thought, what am I going to use my PD leave for? And I thought, I'm going to use my PD leave to find out what this model is that I've got floating. And you named it, Mark, post something. What did you call it, please?
Well, I can't take credit. Quentin's was that, yeah, post submission.
So submission, yeah. So that's
we
fantastic.
Call it closed loop. We've called it as well. So we create a loop with the lecturer and the student. So we feed back to the lecturer what's going on.
Good. Because my team's keen on one-on-one appointments. They really seem quite attached to them.
Yes. And
I'm new to being a team lead of learning advisors, so they're kind of like, you don't know what we're doing. And I'm like, yeah, but hang in there, hang in there, because I'm good with data and analysing and evaluating stuff, and I'm student-centred. So yeah, so thank you.
I can add one other point to that. I won't derail things, I promise.
No, thank you. Sorry.
No, not at all.
So interesting.
Derail away.
But we basically shifted from the model that probably Joe's on at the moment quite a while back, which essentially freed us up quite a lot to do a lot of other work, like embedding in faculty, and that's done synchronous classes, but also we create a lot of resources that are tailored to the discipline as well. So not seeing the students in the same way has given us time to do that work.
Nobody's chat.
Absolutely.
Synchronous classes.
Sorry, Jill?
Synchronous classes. What does that mean?
Synchronous classes?
No,
those are classes. They're happening at the same time.
Yeah, I know that. But how does that fit in with the learning advisors? Like, are you running where is the synchronicity and what classes and what part has the learning advisor got in this?
I meant just sort of, actual teaching in classrooms. We do that, but we also do all these online resources that are asynchronous, so the students access.
I see what you mean. Yep, gotcha.
And Joe, I work at a college, so I'm not at a university, but I have actually gone into classrooms and done some co-teaching with some of the faculty, particularly for when faculty have sort of identified that a cohort of students is really struggling with a particular skill, and it's pretty, across the board. I would show up and they would lecture and I would sort of interrupt and this is what we, give some direction and structure around, how to think about things. So I have done that before as well, but it is different from what Mark's talking about.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Thank you, everyone. Super helpful. Now I've got a keyword to go and search in databases with. Like doing my little mini research project.
Right.
On a little rabbit hunt. Yeah.
Any other thoughts on the job tasks that we're doing? I know we're developing a lot of resources, sometimes doing that team teaching piece, the one-to-one appointments, which are so fundamental and essential for student support. I love that you that folks have. I've done some post-test analysis with students, but I've never done post-writing feedback, which I think is absolutely brilliant. Support the development and access online resources. This is awesome.
I like the way in our team, you've got the specialists, the learning advisors. They're really expert in these areas like accessibility, disability, or all these little niches that fit in beautifully across the institution. And I think some of those jobs are really special, like working with assistive technology, being skilled in all these particular areas, skilled in academic integrity and AI use. You've got all these subject matter experts in our team, and I think it's amazing. And just thinking about the value they bring, to the connecting academic staff with non-academic staff. There's a bit of crossover in our institution. I think that's nice because the non-academic staff often is not, or academic, we don't really mix. But the learning advisors are across both, at that level of work, not management and that, yeah.
I always think the learning advisor, learning strategist sort of sits at the intersection of all of those other positions, where, kind of touch on the borders of all of those things. Mark, there was an ask from Quinton if you could explain more about this. I'm not sure what this is.
I think it's support development of self-access online resources, I suspect.
So we do a lot of work on creating material through we put it all into our learning management system,
right,
and it's positioned in such a way that we make it very easy for students to find. So we'll work with lecturers to add little links into their assignment instructions, for instance, that will connect them to something that's showing them, okay, when your lecturer says critically analyze, the word critically analyze can be a link, and that'll take them to something from business or whatever the discipline is that shows them an example.
Cool.
Awesome.
And as Quentin says, we base that off of student work, which is what we do in embedding as well. So we'll get samples and use that as the starting point for modeling whatever it is we're trying to teach.
Fantastic. All right, so we're going to move on to, I am going the right direction, excellent, to question 3. And so going even further down into a more granular view of things, what are the evidence-based strategies that we teach? And I think that this is something that I see in job descriptions. While we were doing the job description analysis, we see everywhere, support study skills. But again, and it might be a Nova Scotia jurisdictional thing, but I do see it in other job descriptions, sort of across the Commonwealth, where we're using these words that can be quite meaningless to budget holders who don't know the work and don't understand the work that we do, and what kind of training and education that you need to training, education, and experience that you need to acquire in order to do these tasks. So we're hoping to create a list of tasks and skills that we teach students to sort of illustrate the complexity of the job, because there is a lot of, when you're meeting with a student, there is sort of a lot of assessing what's in front of you in the moment, to help, and motivational interviewing and things like that. There are so many pieces that we do in this role, that I don't know that budget holders in our institutions truly understand what we're doing. So we're hoping in the next question that we can articulate all of those things really, really clearly, and create a list of things that we do and things that we teach, and so that we can present that to the government of Nova Scotia as a really comprehensive analysis of all of the things that this job is. So on that note, I think I'm going the wrong way, and it's not working again. Give me a moment. Many apologies for the technology problems. I'm so sorry, folks. This worked so smoothly this morning.
It's okay.
All right, if folks want to start populating oh, there we go. Woohoo! All right. So application of universal design for learning. I love that.
Oh, put that in there again.
At the institution that I work at, we have a Center for Teaching and Learning, and that is sort of their domain, is working with the faculty to make sure that they understand universal design for learning, and doing their best to support them in implementing that in all of their courses, and thinking about that as they design courses and design their program for the year. So that's really fantastic that your units are looking at that stuff. and that you're engaging in that stuff. What are some things that you are doing, language and linguistic knowledge, that we can contextualize in concrete terms for students to teach them how to write? That is absolutely incredible, whoever wrote that. I've been to different workshops that we offer in Canada, and one of them most notably is Procrastination Awareness Week. And there's always a language or a writing session that's being done, and it always turns into an academic integrity talk about how to cite things, and but nobody really digs down into this linguistic knowledge to teach students how to write, and I think that it is a skill that I've been seeing decrease over the years. Fewer and fewer students are showing up with strong writing skills.
Mm-hmm.
It's reading grids and how to identify them.
Reading grids across multiple texts. Great point.
For analyzing assessment tasks. That's a great one. I frequently find myself more recently teaching students how to read a rubric because they don't understand how to do it. And yeah, it's intensely frustrating sometimes.
Sometimes when I have a look at reading, the marking rubrics, I think, just from a student's perspective who has to look at a lot of rubrics over their week and semester and year and consecutive years, like I see some rubrics that are just so text heavy across these grids, and it's like, this is actually quite a lot and difficult to just read on my laptop. This is a lot here. Like if it was better organised with maybe like, I know you've got to have a comprehensive, like a complete marking rubric, because you've got to be fair to the student, but sometimes I read some assessments and just the part of it, I think, gosh, you could have written this a lot more help. You could have been a bit more helpful here. And I'm not quite sure what you mean for some of them. Yeah, but some are very good. But I'm just thinking from reading content, like stuff could be better organised, to be fair. And for international, we don't want to like dumb stuff down, but let's organise our information that we're giving students. Not that we do the marking rubric, but just just observation. I think, gosh, this is a lot.
and I think that really ties back to that application of universal design for learning. Oh, we need to start wrapping things up. Oh my God, it is time. Thanks, Mark. So it really does tie back to that universal design for learning, and being clear. Clarity is kindness. It helps students understand what's going on. It helps people follow the assignment. So really, it really does tie back to a really excellent application of those principles. So, okay, so we did have other questions that we wanted to ask folks, and I guess we'll skip ahead to our final. We'll skip that one to our sort of final chit chat in our last 5 minutes around benefits and barriers to credentialing. And so we've been sort of tasked with identifying the boundaries of this job and possibly ways of evaluating people who want to do this work outside of a university or college context. And so we are interested in what you folks think about credentialization, whether or not you think that credentialization has a value for you. Does it create barriers, like having to go through the process of becoming credentialized? Do you find that credentialization, or if and I know that you guys have some sort of credentialization, or some jurisdictions do, if the credentialization protects your scope of practice from institutions just sort of peeling off bits of your job and giving it to different people in order to sort of eliminate and consolidate other positions and eliminate others. So we're curious if anybody has some opinions on whether or not credentialization is beneficial. And also just let everyone know, there's almost no research in this area on the benefits and drawbacks of credentialization. There's absolutely no research on credentialization as learning strategy. So we're curious if anybody has opinions on that. Is it protective? Do you imagine that it is protective? Role protective? Does it just create a barrier? So on that note, we will wrap things up. There's not a lot of time to discuss, but if you wanted to throw some information in the chat, that would be great.
Yes, please.
And if anybody wants to get in touch with us, please do. We are working on this project for a little while longer, and we'd love to get your thoughts on the experience of doing this and whether or not it has benefit for you in your role. Tertiary learning advisors. Okay. Thank you so much, folks. All right. We're so sorry that we were so slow, and we hope that, that this was useful and interesting. And yeah, over to you, Mark, for the next. Well, I think that you're up next, actually.
Over to you, Mark, for you.
Thanks so much, Jill and Alyson.